Hi there. In this video, we're going to talk about understanding the mother complex or the mother wound. My name is Christopher and my coaching business is Humble Fox Consultations. And with that, let's dive right in. So I wanted to start this off with a little quotation. This is by Abraham Lincoln. He says, "All that I am or hope to be, I owe to my angel mother." And I think that speaks to the seriousness of the mother complex, which is what we're going to get into. But Abraham Lincoln here is talking from his mother complex, and we'll dive into what that means in just a second. So, I pulled from a couple of different sources here, mainly Jung's Map of the Soul by Murray Stein, which is an awesome book if you're looking to get into Jungian psychology, Memories, Dreams, Reflection, which is Jung's autobiography, and then there is this book here by Jacoby, which is Complex Archetype Symbols in the Psychology of C.G. Jung. I also want to give a shout out to my professor at Pacifica Graduate Institute, Jorge de la O. A lot of this information on complexes comes from him, and he's really helped me to understand just what complexes mean in Jungian psychology. All those books are in the description down below if you're interested. So, according to Jung, it is not dreams, as Freud believed, but complexes that provide the royal road to the unconscious. And I think that's very significant because we can now start looking at complexes as a way to accessing our unconscious. And that's why this is important to talk about, is that complexes play a huge role in our life. So what is a complex? Well, I went really deep in this in my father complex video. So if you do want to check that out and learn a little bit more about complexes, you definitely can go check out that video. But for the sake of this video, we're going to define complexes as a core pattern of emotions, memories, perceptions, and desires that are organized around a particular theme. So how this relates to Jungian theory is this comes straight from Jung. He says complexes are psychic fragments which have split off owing to traumatic influences, underlining that word, traumatic influences, or certain incompatible tendencies. Mainly being if a mothers a child the way the child doesn't want to be mothered, then that could be an incompatible tendency. Complexes interfere with the intentions of the will and disturb the conscious performance. They produce disturbances of memory and blockages in the flow of associations. They can temporarily obsess consciousness or influence speech and action in an unconscious way. Basically, what Jung is saying here is that complexes are autonomous entities that exist inside of the psyche. I like to think of complexes like demons. I know that's not a very clinically oriented word, but the idea of something taking over the psyche and something that has a will of its own. And it might be kind of scary to think that we have things inside of us that have their own will, but this is from Jung. Everyone knows nowadays that people have complexes. What is not so well known is that complexes can have us, meaning they can take over, right? And that is a little bit scary, but that happens. And that's part of our work here in therapy to work through that. So the way that I think of a complex is I think of a complex like a button. So this button exists inside of the psyche. So let's say this button is our mother complex. So this button originated in the psyche due to the relationship with our mother early on. Now something will happen in the external world that will push this button, that will trigger us to a familiar experience of what it was like to be in relationship with our mother or the mother archetype in general. We'll get to that in a second, but something happens in the external world that triggers us and triggers that complex. And so what ends up happening is that button gets pushed and then all hell breaks loose. And then all of a sudden we have this archetype that's running around or this complex that's running around and has a will of its own and can cause us to say things and do things and things that maybe we don't want to do. Some common phrases you might hear when somebody has a complex going on is that seems totally out of character. Whoa, someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed. He's usually not like this. Those are all kind of good indications that there's a complex that's operating, something that's outside of that normal ego functioning consciousness. So the way that the mother complex is formed is essentially two parts. So the first part that is unique to each of us is we have our personal mother, and this could be for somebody who doesn't have a mother as well. The relationship that we did or didn't have with our personal, biological, or even caretakers who resembled mothers in our early upbringing, whether that's a step parent or an adopted parent or a nurse or somebody who would have been helping nurse you during those early infantile stages and early childhood development as well. So we have the personal mother. Then we also have the mother archetype. So an archetype, for the sake of this video, I also made another video on archetypes if you want to dive deeper into that context, because they are very complex. But for the sake of brevity, we're going to call an archetype a universal symbol, pattern, or motif that is present in the collective unconscious of humanity. So the way that I like to look at archetypes is they're sort of like these blueprints that exist inside of the psyche of every single human being. Every single human being has an archetype or a blueprint of quote unquote the mother. We also have the father, we have the hero, we have the golden child. These are all different archetypes. Now, what we're talking about here with the mother complex is that we have that first level of the mother that is then interacting with the mother archetype. So we have this imprint of what a mother is, or the mother archetype, now is interacting and getting enmeshed with the personal mother and the interactions of the personal mother. So we have this complex interweaving of the mother archetype interacting with the personal mother. And so an example of this, let's consider a person named Alex. Alex grew up in a household where the mother was emotionally distant and critical. Throughout childhood, Alex felt a deep sense of longing for maternal warmth and approval, but consistently received rejection or indifference instead. This early experience left a profound emotional imprint on Alex's psyche, shaping their attitudes and behaviors in adulthood. Now we can see that he had a deep sense of longing for maternal warmth. So that existed already in his psyche. There's a sense that inside of his psyche there is that mother archetype, the ability for to receive maternal warmth. But as we can see, due to his personal mother and in interacting with and attaching to his personal mother, he was then imprinted with a different interpretation of what it means to interact with the mother. So we have this mingling and this enmeshment of the mother and the archetype existing inside of Alex's psyche. And so Alex, in this case, now has this need for warmth and approval that's not being met. And essentially what Alex might do is internalize that need as something bad inside of him. Instead of something that's natural and inherent to being a human and a child, Alex might internalize that this is a bad part of me and reject this need inside of him, and may go on to be isolated or not dependent on other people to meet basic emotional needs. So that's how those early behaviors can shape his adulthood experience. So possible symptoms of a negative mother complex, like from the previous example, we have seeking approval and validation from women. We have fear of abandonment, difficulty setting boundaries, idealization or devaluation of mother figures, and then internalized criticism. Hatred of women might also exist inside of that. All good or bad thinking towards women or mothers. Humans are not all good or all bad. We are very complex creatures and capable of both good and bad parts, evil and good. And this idea also of like a helicopter parent, of a parent actually being too there for their child, engulfing the child, sort of drowning the child in attention and emotions, is also something that could create a negative mother complex. It could be very uncomfortable and actually traumatic for the child to receive too much attention in an unhealthy way from the mother. Now, mother complexes are not all bad. So there's also positive qualities of a mother complex. There's positive complexes as well. And our mothers are not all bad either. When we interact with our personal caretaker, our personal mother, we get the good and the bad. So there's a sense of good qualities that also exist inside of a mother complex. So there's a spectrum. And the thing about a mother complex is that, yes, we're talking about a negative or positive mother complex, but these exist inside of a spectrum. So there's certain aspects that maybe we picked up that were negative in our complex, and then certain aspects that we perceived of as positive. And we will actually interact with people based off of those early complexes that we received, and especially in romantic relationships with others, in intimate relationships in general with friends or other people who might even resemble our mothers. It could be an authority figure like a boss. We'll start projecting, and the complex will activate in these certain specific types of relationships. And that's when things kind of just start to take over inside of us. So there's, with the positive qualities, we have, nurturing and compassionate. Our mothers could have provided a sense of security. The mother is also where creativity and imagination lies as well. Emotional resilience, intuition and insight, capacity for healing and connection to nature and the feminine. So there are also positive qualities to the mother as well, and recognizing that, like I said, even though we are talking about negative or positive complexes, we exist on a spectrum. And so there's both negative and positive within all of us. And so how do we heal the mother complex? So these are some practical tools and advice for healing the mother complex if you recognize you have maybe some qualities you want to work on. So self-awareness and reflection, start journaling, start working with your unconscious, start asking your unconscious to come up. A good way to begin this work is to just start writing down dreams. Dreams are an awesome way to start tapping into sort of the unconscious and the mother complex as well. Start reflecting on the relationship you had with your mother in early childhood. A really good 12-step program if you want to go deeper into understanding yourself is adult child of alcoholics or dysfunctional families. Even if your mother, you didn't consider them to be an alcoholic, every family has some dysfunction. So if you want to work with others in this context as well, completely for free, you can join a 12-step group, ACA. They're all over. So that's an awesome way to start getting into some of this family of origin work as well. And then utilizing therapies. So finding a Jungian trained therapist, a Jungian analyst, someone who knows what they're doing when it comes to complexes and working with the unconscious. And then over time, the process of working with a therapist and working with others is to sort of discharge the complex so that it is not as powerful, so that there isn't, it's not a process of like completely removing it or eliminating it, because it's always going to be there, as with any wound is, but it's learning how to become more present when it is activated. It's learning how to decrease the amount of time that it is in full control and start to integrate it into the actual psyche of us so that it is not operating completely on its own. And then developed a balanced relationship with the mother archetypes. That doesn't mean we necessarily need to fix the relationships with our mothers, but we can develop a relationship with the mother inside of ourselves. We can learn to mother ourselves, give ourselves compassion, gentleness, learn how to love ourselves and hold ourselves like a mother would, or like the mother we needed when we were a child. And also, I just want to acknowledge this as well, is that we were our mothers at one point. We were literally inside of our mother's body. We were a part of them. We were one of the cells in their body as an egg. And so we come from them, whether or not we want to admit it. They exist through us. And that may be difficult or triggering for some of us to understand, but acknowledging that and learning to work with that and heal that is a huge part of coming into adulthood, and a sense of individuation and a sense of security inside of oneself. We have them inside of us. So celebrate the positive qualities that you may have inherited from your mothers, and start working through the wounding with a trained professional or a group. We heal in community, we heal with others. So make sure you get some help with other people. Don't do this all by yourself. We don't heal completely alone. And I wanted to talk about Carl Jung's mother complex as well. Carl Jung spoke about it extensively in his book, but this comes from Jung the Man, which I recommend checking out. I left the link right here, and I'll put that down in the description as well if you're interested in diving into more of this. But I'm going to read this to you, and then we're going to talk about this. So Jung's mother complex, it is important to understand the full dimensions of mother before we examine how Jung's mother complex manifested in his life. Our word mother comes from the Indo-European root ma, which is also gives us the words matter, material, and money. Mother is the vehicle through which we come into the material plane. So we can see that also the word ma, that the mother also comes with matter. The great mother archetype is the sense of matter in the world. We come from matter. Money, right? So all these are intertwined and entangled in the mother complex. Our early interaction with mother, be this our biological mother or some other figure that plays the role of our primary caregiver, deeply influences how we later in life regard our bodies, i.e. our most basic form of matter, the material world, and money. Physical and material security is rooted in our initial formative experiences of mother. Jung talked about how his mother complex dominated his life, how his mother was not somebody that had a very easy time connecting emotionally with Jung, and that shaped him for the rest of his life. But as we can see from some of the quote down here is that we're dealing with a lot of different things. We're dealing with how we treat our bodies. You know, how our mothers treated us as infants is how we learn to treat ourselves as we get older. And so we can change that, but a huge part of that is unconsciously programmed. And so we have to go back and start actually doing the work to show ourselves that we are worthy and capable of being loved. Jung wrote about his mother complex. The mother's influence is indeed the decisive one, and indeed so strong that it persists throughout life. We carry the complex of the mother right through our lives, and it persists long after the real cause of it is dead. So I just want to emphasize the first part of that quote. The mother's influence is indeed the decisive one. Our mother's interaction with us as early children, or lack thereof, shapes our lives. And that may seem daunting and intimidating, because it is. And it is our work then to understand that, to interact with the mother, the archetype and the personal mother. So if you would like help with any of this, you can schedule a free consultation down below. Like I said, we heal in community, we heal with other people. So I really recommend, if you want to get some help, schedule a free call down below. We'll see if it's a good fit to work with each other. If you want somebody who's Jungian trained, I do shadow work, I do dream work. And so if you're ready to do the work, click that link below. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to help this video get into YouTube's algorithm, I spend a lot of time making these videos for your enjoyment. That would help me out so much. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next one. Take care.